As you know very well, you're a Columbia junior. Columbia University has garnered national attention over their on campus protests and protests right off the campus. Can you tell us, from your perspective, being on campus, what are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. The past few days have, of course, been an incredibly emotional time for the Columbia community. What truly has transpired is, of course, really beginning with the congressional hearing of Shafiq before Congress, where that same morning that Shafiq was slated to show up in DC, and actually myself and members of my team were there in DC. Um, Student protesters had organized to set up an encampment at literally 4 in the morning, so in the middle of the night slash the morning. Um, and I think what really has spurred out of that, right, out of the sort of clashing and intermix and interplay of these very public things that are happening on our campus, which all eyes were on Shafiq in DC, but then those eyes were very quickly diverted to what was happening right here in New York City, right here on her campus while she was away. And then, of course, as she came back, I think, you know, this has been really the culmination of, since October 7th, a lot of tension on campus, of course, a lot of protests, a lot of back and forth between the university, the students, the faculty, and then also among those groups, right? Students who disagree with each other, faculty, etc. But I think what we've truly seen in this phenomenon right now is a pent up frustration from many groups, right? It didn't necessarily, there's some senses in which this came out of nowhere, or at least it was a surprise and it was intended to be so, right? Such a large showing of protests, but in some senses it's not a surprise. And so how I kind of look at those two things is actually very much before the start of the encampment, there was actually like a drop in protest activity. It was still active, but not as much as we saw in the very beginning stages of university, of what our campus really looked like. And part of that had to do with the crackdown on disciplinary action and policies that the university was taking on some of these protests. But this has been kind of like a resurgence, especially for sort of the pro Palestinian students on our campus, in terms of coming together and organizing this very massive showing, which has then kind of inspired and invited these outside protests to come outside of our gates and sort of join in this really big, now global, arguably, movement across universities in solidarity sort of with what's happening on campus. But of course, at the same time, there are these underlying tensions that were crucial to the point of the hearing, right? What is Columbia doing to address anti Semitism? How is Columbia juggling this act of how do we preserve free speech on our campus and free expression, along with the academic expression of faculty, which was a very big topic in the congressional hearing, along with the safety concerns that are arising out of Jewish students and faculty who are on our campus, who are navigating this space in sometimes very different ways, but for some of them are afraid of certain sides of this campus, or afraid of navigating outdoor protests, and have felt a sense of urgency from the university, or wanted to compel the university to feel more urgent about this issue. And so really what this is a culmination of is months and months of building tensions. Obviously, this political power that had entered this arena for Columbia, right? Putting Columbia on the map, like very purposely singling us out, as they did with Harvard, Penn, and MIT, of course, brought this all sort of into one really big mix, that it became, or it has become, not just about the one experiences of, this university in New York City, this Ivy League institution, but also a microcosm of what is happening at American universities across the nation, but also what is happening at large in terms of our political conversations regarding anti Semitism, free speech, the right to protest, and all of these sort of intermixing things. So I really do see this as it has been building over time. And in a lot of senses, we could have seen where it was building to. Of course, maybe we couldn't have anticipated the sheer scale. but it was clear that there was going to be some flashpoint and that it was coming our way. And I think the congressional hearing certainly propelled that way faster, maybe on a timeline that was very quick, but also just the nature of the fact that the semester is ending. So this is the last time to really, force students to try to confront these issues. And as we've seen, they're doing it in an incredibly public and expansive manner.